The S&B intake that we have here today would be an awesome choice for the 11 to 16, 6-7 Power Stroke owners out there who might be looking for, I would say, one of the nicest sealed options available on the site at a very attractive price point. Now, the S&B will feature a durable ABS plastic build, reusable oiled filter here, and will not require the use of any custom or can tuning. Price point for the 5-star rated option is going to live in that mid $300 range, and this thing is backed by S&B's signature million-mile warranty. So guys, I always like to say intakes are one of those gateway mods that oftentimes get truck owners comfortable with modifying their own rigs at home. Now, not only is there an instant improvement in both appearance and performance, but the satisfaction of tackling something like this in the driveway or garage definitely builds confidence for the next modification. Now, the S&B that we are talking about here today, again, one of the most popular options in the category for the 6-7 Power Stroke trucks with well over 100 5-star reviews. And as always, guys, I'm really going to encourage you to read up on some of those first, as it will definitely help hearing from other 250 and 350 owners about installing this on their rig and seeing how they really like it. Now, as far as your major components are concerned here at the S&B, well, two biggies jump right out at me here. First and foremost, we're talking about a sealed enclosure, and a very nice one at that. Molded ABS plastic build, really well done. Gets topped off with this little plexiglass window here so you can keep an eye on your filter. Definitely a big fan of these sealed enclosures because they're going to be your best bet at reducing high intake air temperatures, especially when the truck is stationary. Now, when you're moving, this obviously isn't a big deal. You're getting some fresh air coming through the front of the truck. But if you're the type of owner who sits in a lot of traffic, especially in a hot climate, this can definitely be a factor, and sometimes it will help the truck feel a little bit more sluggish. Now, inside that sealed enclosure will be one of S&B's signature oiled filters. Now, general rule of thumb here when we're talking oiled filters is that these guys are going to flow a little bit better, whereas a dry filter will help capture more particles, but that really shouldn't be a huge concern since, again, the filter is going to be enclosed. Now, the only drawback to an oiled filter, I would say, is that they do require a little bit more maintenance over time, but what you are doing is cleaning and re-oiling the filter here. So essentially this thing is going to last you the life of your truck, whereas those dry filters, you really don't have that luxury. You can hose them off with some compressed air, but that's about it. And ultimately they do have more of a lifespan, whereas again, these guys clean them, re-oil them, and you're good to go. Now, as far as your benefits are concerned, well, more modified under hood appearance is one, but also a slight bump in both horsepower and torque should be expected as well. Now, I don't have any exact dyno numbers from the gang over at S&B, but one number we do have is that they say this intake here will outflow your factory system by nearly 37%, which will no doubt improve some horsepower and torque all around. Owners will also look forward to things like improved throttle response and, in some cases, improved fuel economy, depending on how heavy your foot is, of course, but also the shape that your factory intake was in when you replaced it. I always like to preface these gains by saying that, listen, if your factory intake was pretty old, your factory filter was just clogged, well then yeah, you're gonna see some bigger gains, not only in regards to power, but also things like fuel economy. So just some things to keep in mind here whenever you're shopping for your system. Now, the rest of the kit here from S&B is pretty straightforward. We already talked about the filter here along with your molded air box, but you're also receiving a rotomolded plastic intake tube along with all of your hardware, couplers, everything needed to get the system in place. Now, again, this system does not require the use of any tuning whatsoever, meaning Power Stroke owners at home, you can bolt this thing up and go without the need for anything else. But now we want to segue into the install, and site's going to call this a strong 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, maybe an hour of your time to get in place from start to finish. As far as your tools needed for the job, well, flat and Phillips head screwdriver along with a basic socket set and a T20 Torx tool, and you should be good to go. But to give you a better idea of just how the job will go down on your rig at home, here's an American Trucks customer to walk you through it now.
Step 1 is to disconnect the batteries on your truck. The big red black box warning on the instructions that say to disconnect the battery, and that'll prevent you from getting a check engine light after you hook everything back up. So it says disconnect for 2 hours. Step 2 is to disconnect your mass air filter sensor from the stock air box. Pull up this red locking tab, press down on the tab itself. And it should pop out there. says to disconnect this little retention clip in your stock airbox. And you got your mass air filter sensor out of the way. Step 3, loosen the clips that hold the lid of the stock airbox on. And use your 5/16 socket to loosen this hose clamp. And that should allow you to lift off the lid of the stock airbox. Step 4, loosen the clamp on the turbo inlet housing. And loosen this nut using an 8mm socket. Pop these hoses out. And you should be able to remove the stock intake tube off of that turbo housing. Step 6, remove this screw, which holds the bottom part of the airbox housing in place. Try not to lose this screw in the depths of the engine bay. Save it for future use. There's also a note here to save the rubber grommets that are on the bottom of the airbox. Those need to stay in place as well. There's your rubber grommets, they're in place. Nothing stuck to the bottom here at the back. I replaced this air filter maybe 5,000 miles ago. Still looks pretty good. And here's the open element of the original box. So you're drawing in air from here, from the front of the engine. Step 8 is to remove this stock gasket off of the stock box and then install it in your new box. I just think it's kind of weird when aftermarket manufacturers ask you to do stuff like this. Maybe the tooling and developing a gasket like this is too expensive, but what a great opportunity for S&B to give you a new gasket. It did not do that. I guess if you really had to bug up your rear, you'd go to a Ford dealer. See if you can get a gasket like this from the Ford dealer. I'm just going to use a needle nose pliers to help pull this tab on the gasket through. Okay, seems good. Step 9, install the tube seal onto the airbox. Step 10, install the breakaway plug, which the instructions describe as a safety mechanism. So keeps hot air out of the box, but if your box becomes plugged, looks like this will break away and give another path for air to enter the box. But they give you the option to install it or not. So why don't we put it in for now, and we'll check on it in a few hundred miles and see what's going on. Looks like step 11 is also optional, and you can insert this plug to keep debris out of your box, presumably in ice or other environments where you may get a lot of debris in the engine. This is a cold air intake. I'm trying to maximize airflow, so I'm going to leave it out for now. Of course, I'll save it, decide whether or not to put it in the future. Step 13, I want you to install a rubber spacer on top of the fixing point with the battery tray. Make sure that your two tabs get inserted into the rubber grommets that got left behind. Pop the box in. And then put your mounting screw that you removed back in step 6. Pop that back in the hole. Alright, not exactly easy to see what you're aiming for there, but not too hard either. Steps 15 through 17 are getting the intake pipe back into the airbox and onto the intake throttle body. So install the coupler onto the intake tube, leave these hose clamps loose, so to slide the coupler all the way over the intake tube, and that's going to give you enough access to wiggle it in through here. Always want to leave the access to your hose clamps up so you can actually tighten it. And to orient you, here's the opening for the MAF. Step 18 is to take your stock MAF off of the old intake tube, put it on the new intake tube. And so they give you this foam gasket and a pedestal to sit on top of the foam gasket. And that will allow for proper orientation of the sensor. It's a T20 screw. And give you a nice little wrench for it. I'm just going to use my own. Step 19. Drop in the filter and tighten the clamp. And I assume this piece has to come off too, right? Maybe not. Line your tab. Step 22. Press your seal into the top of the airbox. Pretty easy. To protect the tube from Step 25. Secure this coolant line, which we disconnected earlier. Coolant line to the finish rod.
But wrapping this one up here, guys, again, if you're looking for one of the highest rated intakes on the site for your Power Stroke at a very attractive price point, well then you might want to consider the S&B for your rig right here at AmericanTrucks.com.